Hello and welcome to another Battlefield 4 video. In today's video I'm going to be reviewing each Battlefield 4 weapon from what I believe is the least popular, or I'm just often not killed by it in Battlefield 4. To start, we have the CZ805, the final assault rifle unlocked for the assault class. Oftentimes I don't see the CZ805 being used, or am I ever on the receiving end of the CZ. The CZ805 is an average assault rifle with average status. According to Syms.gg, which I will link in the description down below, the CZ805 does a max damage output of 24.5 and 18 damage minimum, has a rate of fire of 700 rounds per minute, a 2.65 second reload time, and 3.4 seconds for an empty reload, has a combined recoil of 0.1 degree left, 0.22 degrees right, and 0.29 degrees upwards. Has a first shot recoil multiplier of 2.1, which is rather average for an average assault rifle. Has a muzzle velocity of 620 meters per second. The CZ805 is both good in defense and offensive playstyle. It's not the greatest weapon to choose for close quarters, but can still work regardless. The best way to use the CZ805 is to compensate for the recoil. You can basically aim at stomach level and let the upwards recoil carry you up to a headshot. For the attachments, I would recommend starting with an angle grip, and then graduate to the stubby grip. For my setup, I ran with the Cobra sight or Coyote sight, no accessory, stubby grip, and a heavy barrel. Two other options can be compared to the CZ805, the AUG-A3 and the AR-160, as they have 700 rounds per minute for a fire rate and do the same damage. The AUG-A3 has a 2.5 second reload time, 3.1 seconds for an empty reload, muzzle velocity of 670 meters per second, making it the fastest of all the assault rifles. First shot recoil multiplier of 1.95 degrees, combined recoil of 0.22 degrees left, 0.17 right, and 0.26 upwards. The bullpup design for the AUG-A3 gives you the ability to move faster while aiming down sights. For the AR-160, the AR-160 has a 2-second reload time, 3 seconds for an empty reload, muzzle velocity of 650 meters per second, and a low first shot recoil multiplier of 1.6. The combined recoil is all even with the AR-160, 0.23 degrees. Overall, the CZ805 is an average assault rifle and average for the average player. Not the worst options overall. For personal defense weapons in the Engineer class, we have the JS2, the last PDW unlocked for the Engineer class. Has a damage output of 22.5 and 13.5 minimum. Has a rate of fire of 900 rounds per minute, a 2.45 second reload time, 3.15 seconds for an empty reload. Has a combined recoil of 0.3 degrees left, 0.5 degrees right, and 0.38 degrees upward. Has a first shot recoil multiplier of 2.55, making it rather high with all PDWs that do higher damage. Has a muzzle velocity of 350 meters per second. The best way to use the JS2 is stick strictly to close quarters battles. When you're point blank with your opponent, always hip fire. Another tactic to consider with the JS2 due to the high upwards recoil is to hold the analog stick slightly down while firing fully auto. For my setup, I ran with the Coyote sight, laser sight, and a suppressor. If you have a hard time controlling the upwards recoil with the JS2, I would encourage using the muzzle brake. A similar option that you can consider with the JS2 is the P90. The P90 has a larger mag and better muzzle velocity of 460 meters per second. Although the P90 does less damage compared to the JS2 can also be considerable due to higher damage output as long as you time your reload. Moving on to light machine guns for the support class, we have the RPK-12. The RPK-12 is unlocked by completing this extra assignment. The RPK-12 does a damage output of 24.5 maximum and 18 damage minimum. Has a rate of fire of 600 rounds per minute, 2.4 second reload time, and 3.3 seconds for an empty reload.
I got your ammo, pick it up!
The reload times for the RPK-12 are generally on par for most assault rifles. The RPK-12 has a combined recoil of 0.14 degrees left, 0.08 right, and 0.27 upwards. First shot recoil multiplier of the RPK-12 is 1.5 times. Has a muzzle velocity of 600 meters per second. As I mentioned, the RPK-12 is on par for most assault rifles that are rather average in stats. The best way to use the RPK-12 is to play hardcore mode. Stick to mid-range engagements, as you're not going to win all close quarters battles unless your opponent is oblivious. The best engagement range for the RPK-12 is generally within 30 meters, if it's a head-on engagement. For my setup with the RPK-12, I started off with a Cobra sight, but then graduated to a holographic sight. I ran no accessory on the RPK-12. Put the stubby grip in a heavy barrel to maximize the accuracy when going full auto. The most similar weapon that you can find with the RPK-12 is the RPK-74M, which is unlocked through the China Rising DLC. The RPK-74M has a higher damage output, has the same rate of fire, but in general the RPK-74M is just better overall. Last but not least, for sniper rifles, we have the SR-338. I gave this weapon a vote for one of the worst sniper rifles in Battlefield 4. The SR-338 is unlocked through the Naval Strike DLC by completing the assignment Always Deadly. The SR is a semi-automatic sniper rifle that does a maximum damage output of 50 to 38 minimum. Has a muzzle velocity of 600 meters per second. Due to the low damage output of the SR-338, it's best to use this weapon in hardcore mode. For the best playstyle for the SR-338 is rather distance yourself but avoid going into close quarters battles. You can treat the SR-338 like any other DMR. For my setup on the SR, I ran the 4X ACOG, no accessory, muzzle brake, and no underbarrel attachment, as the only underbarrel attachment you have available is the bipod. For any other weapon that would be similar to the SR-338 is any DMR that's available. If you were to choose any weapon that's semi-automatic, just take a DMR. Because the SR-338 is just not great, because you can't shoot it as fast compared to other DMRs. Overall, these are what I believe to be the least popular weapons in Battlefield 4. Some weapons are least popular for a good reason, others are just simply passed over. If you agree or disagree with my choosings, please let me know in the comment below. I'll also be doing this for the carbines, DMRs, and shotguns. If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like, and thanks for watching.